to negotiate a just peace and return of its own territory. We will explore that deeply right here on World DNA. This and a lot more lined up for you right here on the show. Let's start with the headlines first. Israel strikes South Beirut, targeting Hezbollah's stronghold as Israeli military claims 250 projectiles into its territory from Lebanon.
Yasman Ouassi, candidate of the left-leaning alliance, elected new president of Uruguay. As per official results, ruling party candidate Alvaro Delgado concedes.
Strong winds and heavy rain triggered by Storm Bert batter Britain. Around 100 flood warnings issued, roads closed and several trains cancelled.
Delhi's average air quality level improves to poor on Monday morning, but several zones remain in the very poor category.
The World Chess Championship begins from today in Singapore. India's Gukesh aims to become the youngest ever world champion at the age of 18 when he takes on China's Ding Liren. Now, officials in Pakistan have announced a 7-day truce after days of bitter sectarian gunfights in the country's northwest.
At least 82 people have been killed and more than 150 wounded in these attacks in Kurram district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province.
Now, the ceasefire deal came after a delegation from the provincial government held talks with the Shia community on Saturday and met the Sunni community on Sunday. A spokesperson for the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provincial government said that both sides have agreed to a 7-day ceasefire during which they will also exchange prisoners and return bodies to one another. Another official said that efforts were being made to return up to 20 people who were missing on both sides.
The latest violence began on Thursday when two separate convoys of Shiite Muslims travelling under police escort were ambushed, killing at least 43 and sparking 2 days of gun battles. Police have regularly struggled to control violence in Kurram. Pakistan is a Sunni majority country, but Kurram in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province near the border with Afghanistan has a large Shiite population and the communities have clashed for decades.
The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan said 79 people were killed between July and October in sectarian clashes. Several hundred people demonstrated against the violence on Friday in Pakistan's two largest cities, Karachi and Lahore.
And the United Arab Emirates has announced the arrest of 3 individuals in connection with the murder of Tzizi Kogan, an Israeli Moldovan rabbi living in the Emirates.
Kogan's body was discovered by authorities after he had been reported missing on Thursday. The 28-year-old had been working in the UAE as a representative of the Chabad Hasidic movement, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish group.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the killing, calling it an abhorrent anti-Semitic terrorist attack. He vowed to use all means necessary to bring those responsible to justice.
This murder was carried out in the UAE. The murder of an Israeli citizen and a Chabad emissary is an abhorrent anti-Semitic terrorist attack. The state of Israel will use all means and will deal with these murderers and those who dispatch them to the fullest extent of the law. None of them will get away. I greatly appreciate the cooperation with the United Arab Emirates in investigating the murder.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog echoed the sentiments, describing the murder as a vile anti-Semitic attack. Both Netanyahu and Herzog reaffirmed Israel's commitment to maintaining Jewish communities in the UAE despite the violence. And meanwhile, the United States has also condemned the killing, calling it a horrific crime. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson Sean Savit has stated that the attack is an assault on all those who advocate for peace and coexistence, underscoring that the UAE's rejection of extremism should not be undermined by such acts of violence.
The UAE, which normalized its ties with Israel in 2020 under the Abraham Accord, has also condemned the killing. UAE expressed its condolence and reiterated its stance of tolerance and coexistence.
Presidential advisor Anwar Gargash described the country as an oasis of stability amid the growing global regional tensions, particularly in Gaza. Yemen's Houthis are claiming to have launched a hypersonic ballistic missile dubbed the Palestine II, targeting Israel's Nevatim airbase in the Negev desert.
The militants' claim on Friday is the latest in a series of such pronouncements. The previous one was on the 8th of November. That was of a hypersonic missile strike on a strategic airbase in Israel's south. The Houthis say their military operations are a response to the Israeli actions in Gaza and Lebanon.
Hypersonic missiles are highly advanced weapons that travel at speeds exceeding 5 times the speed of sound and follow unpredictable trajectories, making them nearly impossible to intercept. If confirmed, this could represent a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict in West Asia.
However, Israel has not admitted to any such development. Reports have suggested that air raid sirens that went off in the Israeli region had followed Hezbollah aerial attacks and not a Houthi missile strike. On the Houthis' November 8th claim, the Israeli military said the projectile broke apart mid-air during interception attempts, and they are still investigating the incident.
In the past, the Pentagon had also dismissed the hypersonic claim. U.S. defense officials said that the Houthi missile was ballistic and it was not hypersonic, based on their assessments of the launch. The Pentagon also claims that they had seen no evidence of the Houthis possessing such advanced technology at this time.
Houthi backer Iran has denied supplying them with hypersonic weapons, and this follows Tehran's announcement last year that it had developed a domestically produced hypersonic missile.
In September this year, the Houthis launched what they again called was a hypersonic missile aimed at central Israel. It reportedly caused fires, triggered air raid sirens and sent residents into their shelters in the area around Ben Gurion Airport. Israel claimed the missile was not hypersonic, adding that it did not maneuver in flight. And shortly after this, Israeli fighter jets attacked power plants and seaports at the Ras Isa and Hodeidah ports in Yemen.
Shifting our focus now, Ukraine is reportedly losing ground in Russia's Kursk.
Well, a senior Ukrainian official reveals that over 40% of the land that Ukraine seized in its incursion of the Kursk region back in August has now been lost. Ukraine has controlled over 1,300 square kilometers, which has dropped to around 800 now.
Now, the unexpected incursion in August by the Ukrainian forces had caught Moscow off guard, prompting Russia to deploy thousands of additional troops in the region. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky had recently warned that Russia aims to push Ukrainian forces out of the area by January 2025.
Meanwhile, Ukraine is investigating debris from a Russian ballistic missile that hit the city of Dnipro on the 21st of November. Ukraine's security services further suggested that the missile was likely from Russia's Kedar missile complex. The missile, which had a speed of 13,000 kilometers per hour, struck a Ukrainian military facility.
These missile fragments were found and seized by the investigators of the security service as a result of a missile strike that was carried out on the city of Dnipro on November 21, 2024. It should be said that this is the first time that such remnants of a missile have been discovered on the territory of Ukraine. This object had not been documented by the investigators of the security services before.
Russian President Putin has confirmed the use of advanced intermediate-range hypersonic missiles. He further added that the attack was a warning to the West against further support to Ukraine in the ongoing war. Mike Waltz, who is Donald Trump's national security advisor nominee, has said that the incoming Trump administration will bring the war to an end, and Trump has also previously stated that he would end the war within 24 hours.
The president-elect has been very concerned about the escalation and where it's all going. If North Korea has made this move, we have made a move. Russia has now responded. Iran is involved. South Korea is thinking about getting involved. Our allies have now, extended the range of their missiles as well. So we need to bring this to a responsible end. We need to restore deterrence, restore peace, and get ahead of this escalation ladder rather than responding to it.
Now, days after Russia fired Oreshnik missiles into Ukraine for the first time, President Vladimir Putin issued a warning.
In televised comments to defense officials and missile developers, Putin said Russia would continue testing the hypersonic missile, adding that it had a stock ready for use. In a direct warning to Britain, Putin said the elites of those countries that are hatching plans to use their military contingents against Russia need to seriously think about this. The Pentagon described Oreshnik as a variant of the RS-26 Rubez.
Very little is known about the missile until footage emerged of its first strike. In the footage, Oreshnik appeared to have multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, MIRVs, and these are separate warheads which are able to hit different targets, which gives one missile enormous destructive power, hitting several different points at the same time.
Experts described Oreshnik as an experimental hybrid missile that sits in a category between intercontinental and intermediate range missiles. This means it has a range of around 3,000 miles, easily enough to strike Britain.
In the televised address, Putin had claimed that the missile was capable of carrying both a conventional payload or a nuclear warhead, and that it could easily dodge anti-missile systems. The Oreshnik is fast and it is stealthy. Putin said that the missile can fly at 10 times the speed of sound and cannot be shot down by any air defense system.
Ukraine's military intelligence said that the missile was fired from the 4th Missile Test Range, Kapustnya, in Russia's Astrakhan region, and flew 15 minutes before striking Dnipro.
Mick Ryan, a military analyst and a retired Australian Major General cited by The Telegraph, said that by unveiling the Oreshnik with a strike on Dnipro, Putin was sending a strong message.
That being that it can use these against almost any target in Europe. Experts say the missile can strike Britain in 20 minutes and Poland in 12 minutes. Now, the group of 7 countries are meeting next week for a high-profile gathering in Italy.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived on Sunday for the G7 meeting. Italy holds the 2024 rotating presidency of the G7 that includes the United States, Canada, Japan, France, Germany and Britain. The U.S. State Department said that Blinken will discuss issues including conflicts in the Middle East, Russia's war against Ukraine, Indo-Pacific security and the ongoing crises in both Haiti and Sudan. He also plans to meet Pope Francis at the Vatican following the G7 talks.
Present world is quite problematic, is even to a great extent, unfortunately, dangerous. Wars, both in Europe, Ukraine, in the Middle East, the revamp of hostilities, the dangers all around the world that we see daily. So it is quite important for Western countries to be in close cooperation in order to grant a sort of common position in the diplomatic talks and in looking for a better and more peaceful world.
Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is also on an official visit to Italy. During his trip, Jaishankar will take part in the outreach session of G7 Foreign Ministers meeting.
And that meeting is in Fiuggi, Italy, where India has been invited as a guest country. At the top of the agenda in Italy will be the conflicts in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, and the stability of the Indo-Pacific region.
And a massive blaze engulfed homes in downtown Manila on Sunday, leaving the residents homeless.
Helicopters of the Philippine Air Force with head buckets joined the firefighters in containing the massive fire, and that took 8 hours to be doused. The fire-affected area is located in Islamabad, Tondo, near the Manila North Harbour Port. Several families fled to a nearby evacuation centre in Tondo, Manila. According to the Manila Public Information Office, over 2,000 families lost their homes in the blaze, with firefighters still investigating its cause.
Maaga po yun, nasa loob ng bahay. Nag-aalmusal po kami. Nagkasigawan po na sunog. Di paglabas namin, yun nga po, nakita namin, laki-laki po ng usok. Di nataranta na po ng mga tao. Sabi ng iba, wag magpanik. Nagpanik na po dahil sobra na po talaga lakas ng usok. Tapos yun, nakita namin, naghahakutan na ng gamit yung mga tao. Kaya naghakot na rin po kami. Ayun po, talagang tuloy-tuloy na po ang apoy. Talagang nilamo na po lang buong Purok Dos.
Houses in Isla Puting Bato are mostly made of light materials, and are built closely. In August, 11 people died after a 5-story apartment burnt down in Manila's Chinatown.
Siyempre, nanlulo mo, wala nang hanap buhay, wala pang bahay. Lahat wala eh. Hindi ka na nga makakain. Grabe itong inabot namin. Papasko pa naman.
Storm Bert unleashed severe weather across Britain over the weekend, leaving towns inundated with floodwaters and disrupting transport networks. On Sunday, residents in several areas woke up to waterlogged homes and streets, grappling with the aftermath of the storm's heavy snow, rain and strong winds.
Now in Pontypridd, a small Welsh town near Cardiff, residents banded together to combat the rising water levels from the river using buckets and other tools. Volunteers worked to clear floodwaters from homes and streets. Emergency workers rescued a dog, while local resident Victor evacuated the area after moving valuables to the upper floor of their homes.
Yeah, it's like not something you ever think it'll happen to you. You see on the news, it happens in Spain, globally, and then it happens to you, and it's like, oh, right, well, how do we handle it? And it's just, some of them having a cuppa, some like me panicking, going away. It's just, everyone's got their own ways.
Further north in West Yorkshire, the town of Hebden Bridge faced similar challenges. Firefighters spent the morning pumping flood water off a major road and directing it back into the local river, aiming to reopen the route as quickly as possible.
We work closely with the environmental agency, and we also monitor river levels at the monitoring stations. So at the moment, the river levels are going down, which is positive. This will enable us to then pump the water, as you can see, back into the river system.
The storm, which struck on Saturday, November 23rd, has already claimed one life. A man in his 60s died in southern England when a tree fell on his car on the highway A34. According to the local police, in West Yorkshire, one father described a terrifying moment as him and his 11-month-old son escaped from a sinking car after it got submerged in floodwaters.
the water had messed up with the electricity in the car. I think now, like, would the windows have wound down? Would I have had to spend time trying to smash a window before the water got too high? It's scary to think about.
The Met Office described Storm Bert as a multi-hazard event. Chief Meteorologist Jason Kelly said the storm would bring snow, rain and strong winds throughout the weekend, impacting large parts of the country. The severe conditions also forced the closure of multiple railway lines, roads and bridges.
As the storm subsides, emergency services and residents continue efforts to restore normalcy in the affected regions. And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. Him and I will be back with you on the other side of this when we come back. The winter session of the Indian Parliament starts from today. We will bring you a full report on what to expect in the session. The government has urged all political parties to ensure smooth functioning of the two houses. However, the opposition is expected to raise the issues of recent charges against the Adani Group and violence in the state of Manipur.
At least 3 people lost their lives in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh following protests against a court-ordered survey of a Mughal-era mosque. We'll bring you all the details on this on the other side.
Special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
A special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Haim and I'm Shivan. Lots to discuss on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
Indian Parliament's winter session begins today. Opposition expected to demand discussion on the latest charges against Adani Group and violence in Manipur.
Delhi's average air quality level improves to poor now on Monday morning, but several zones remain in the very poor category. Israel strikes South Beirut, targeting Hezbollah stronghold as Israeli military claims 250 projectiles were fired into its territory from Lebanon.
Imran Osi, candidate of left-leaning alliance, elected new president of Uruguay. Show official results. Ruling party candidate Alvaro Delgado concedes.
Strong winds and heavy rain triggered by Storm Bert batter Britain. Around 100 flood warnings issued. Roads closed. Several trains cancelled.
The World Chess Championship begins today in Singapore. India's D. Gukesh aims to become the youngest ever champion at the age of 18 when he takes on China's Ding Liren.
All right, the winter session of the Parliament is scheduled to begin today, and ahead of the winter session of Indian Parliament, the government has urged all political parties to ensure smooth functioning of the two houses.
Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju addressed the floor leaders of both houses of Parliament on the eve of the session. He said the business advisory committees of the Parliament's lower and upper house will decide on the matters to be discussed in consultation with the speakers.
The opposition, led by the Congress party, has demanded discussions on several key issues, and these include the US prosecutor's allegations of bribery against the Adani Group, violence in northeastern state of Manipur, rising air pollution in North India, and the recent train accidents in the country.
विषय तो बहुत है, कुछ विषयों पर सब लोग ने कहा कि चर्चा होना चाहिए। हम चाहते हैं कि विषय अच्छी तरह से लोकसभा राज्यसभा में चर्चा होनी चाहिए। सरकार तैयार है किसी भी विषय पर चर्चा करने के लिए।
The opposition, led by the Congress party, has demanded discussions on several key issues. These include the US prosecutor's allegation of bribery against the Adani Group, the violence in the northeastern state of Manipur, the rising air pollution in North India, and the recent train accidents in the country. The government has also listed 16 bills for consideration, including the Waqf Amendment Bill and the Merchant Shipping Bill. The discussions will also cover the first batch of supplementary demands for grants for 2024 to 25. The winter session will run till the 20th of December, with debates expected to be heated over critical issues. Three people have lost their lives in clashes in Sambhal district of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh.
Now, in the violence that erupted after protesters opposing a court-ordered survey of a Mughal-era mosque resorted to stone pelting, at least 20 security personnel were reported injured.
The incident took place on Sunday morning when a team of the Archaeological Survey of India arrived at the mosque for the survey. The protesters tried to torch vehicles and threw stones at the police, who used tear gas and batons to disperse the mob.
In view of the stone pelting incidents in the Sambhal district, the sub-district magistrate has issued a notice prohibiting citizens from buying or collecting stones, soda bottles or any flammable or explosive materials to be kept on their roofs. The magistrate added that those who will flout the rules will be subjected to strict actions against them. Sambhal Superintendent of Police, the SP Krishan Kumar, said the situation is now under control in the area.
सुबह आज का पहले से वहाँ पे सदर का हम लोगों ने ब्रीफ किया था। आज सुबह 7 से 11 बजे के बीच में कोर्ट का ऑर्डर के अनुसार सर्वे होना था। वहाँ पूरी सर्वे टीम पहुंची थी और पहले ही फोर्स डिप्लॉय करके रखा था हमने। हमारा कई कंपनी पीएससी और लोग कई थाना अध्यक्ष वहाँ पे हर जगह पे स्टैटिकली ड्यूटी डिप्लॉय करके रखा था हम लोगों ने और सर्वे लगातार जारी थी। लगभग 1.5-2 घंटा सर्वे कंप्लीट हो गए थे। अचानक वहाँ का आसपास का नए छोटे छोटे बच्चे के आगे खड़ा करके कुछ लोगों ने जो उपद्रववादी ने आए के पुलिस का ऊपर पथराव करने की कोशिश किया और मस्जिद के ऊपर चढ़ने की कोशिश किया था। तुरंत पुलिस ने उनका सबको रोकने का प्रयास किया है हम लोग ने और लगातार अपील भी किया था। ये आप लोग इस तरह गलत काम करें, ये कोर्ट का प्रक्रिया है, उसके करने सहयोग करिए। यहाँ और कुछ नहीं, उन्होंने केवल फोटो खींचने ऐसे है, उन्हें पूरी माने नहीं। उन्हें पुलिस के ऊपर लगातार उन्होंने पथराव करने की कोशिश किया और कुछ गाड़ियों को आगजनी लगाई। उसके बाद पुलिस ने उनके सभी भीड़ों को खदेड़ा है और खदेड़ने के समय कुछ प्लास्टिक पल्लेट्स का और एंटी रेड गन का और टेयर गैस गन का पुलिस ने यूज किया है।
उन लोगों के मोबाइल से चेक किए जा रहे हैं टू अंडरस्टैंड वेदर देयर वाज एनी कंस्पिरेसी और नॉट, कि किस तरीके से इकट्ठे होकर एक साथ 3 फ्लैंक से ये लोग आए, जबकि वहाँ पुलिस की फोर्स भी मौजूद थी। विभिन्न चौराहों पे पुलिस द्वारा प्रॉपर डिप्लॉयमेंट किया गया था। ये बात उल्लेखनीय है कि जिस तरीके से इन लोगों के द्वारा इकट्ठे हुए तो उस कंस्पिरेसी का पता लगाया जाएगा और उस पर भी अभियोग पंजीकृत करके कार्रवाई निश्चित की।
In Bangladesh, a music festival promoting tolerance was cancelled after threats from religious groups.
The 2-day music festival was to be organized in the Narayanganj later this month by devotees. A 17th century Bengali social reformer whose songs of religious tolerance remain hugely influential. This was what the event was for.
Hifazat-e-Islam, a coalition of Islamist organizations with significant influence, had organized marches earlier this month demanding the festival be stopped. A senior police official said that city authorities had not approved the program. The permission was denied due to concerns about potential violence after assessing security risks, and more than 10,000 people attended the event last year listening to musicians promoting the sect's philosophy, a mix of Hinduism and Sufism rather than one specific religion, which angered some Islamic hardliners. Lalon's followers, ascetic baul singers who wander on foot from town to town singing and begging for alms, are branded heretics by some Islamists.
The festival seems to have become the latest victim of turbulent religious relations since a student-led protest ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh has seen a rise in violence targeting minorities as well as attacks on Muslim Sufi shrines by Islamic hardliners in the last few months.
However, the interim government's cultural affairs advisor, Mustafa Sarwar Farooqi, said they were doing what they could. He said that Sheikh Hasina's fall and her fleeing the country created a vacuum that led to a series of incidents, but we have managed to regain control, quote unquote.
And energy bills in Great Britain are set to rise again in January 2025.
And this is with the average annual cost for gas and electricity increasing to $2,190. This follows a 10% rise in energy costs for the last quarter of 2024, further squeezing household budgets amid rising inflation and mortgage costs.
The new price cap that was set by the energy regulator Ofcom marks a 1.2% increase, adding about $26 to the typical yearly bill. Although the January increase is modest, bills remain far higher than before the energy crisis caused by the Ukraine war, when bills had soared past $5,000. The price cap ensures that the energy suppliers cannot charge customers more than a set amount per unit of gas or electricity.
While the increase will impact most households, it's particularly tough for lower income families, including many pensioners, as the government has cut the winter fuel allowance this year. This means many older people will face higher costs without the usual help, pushing some into poverty. There are calls for targeted government support to help those most vulnerable during the cold months, especially families and people with lower incomes who may struggle to pay for heating. Experts are urging consumers to shop around for better energy deals, as switching tariffs could save households up to $176 annually. Switching to a fixed energy tariff may also provide some protection from future price hikes. While the price cap has decreased compared to last year, it remains higher than before the energy crisis. Many are concerned that the volatile energy market will continue, leaving consumers with an uncertain future when it comes to their energy costs. And the investment landscape in India is evolving rapidly, particularly among younger generations such as Gen Z and millennials.
According to a survey titled The FinOne Young Indians Savings Habits Outlook 2024, 93% of young adults save regularly, with many setting aside 20 to 30% of their monthly income for future financial goals. Among their preferred investment options, stocks are increasingly popular, with 45% of the respondents choosing them over traditional investments like gold and fixed deposits.
The study also highlights a notable shift towards mutual funds, particularly index funds, which are favored by 46 to 48% of Gen Z and millennials. And this is in stark contrast to only 35% of Generation X and baby boomers. Index funds track the performance of major stock indices, offering young investors a diversified and relatively low-risk option. Passive investors who prefer to take a long-term approach typically hold their investments for over 3 years, while stocks and mutual funds dominate. Traditional investment avenues like gold and fixed deposits still hold appeal.
Gen Z is modernizing gold investment through digital gold platforms like Muthoot Group's Swarna, which allows small, flexible investments. Gold is seen as a hedge against market volatility, with younger investors using digital platforms for greater liquidity and accessibility.
The rise of YouTube as a financial learning tool has also contributed to the trend. Over 62% of young investors turn to the platform for guidance, seeking financial education that empowers them to make informed decisions with greater access to information and new investment tools. India's youth are revolutionizing the way investments are approached, blending traditional values with modern technology for a more flexible and accessible financial future.
On to news now from the world of technology. According to a report, Chu Zhu, CEO of ByteDance, owned TikTok, sought input on matters related to the US from Elon Musk, a close advisor to President-elect Donald Trump. As per the report, Chu initiated messages with the Tesla CEO for his opinions on topics ranging from the incoming administration to the potential tech policy. The report also mentions that ByteDance executives not only met with people close to Trump, but also with people close to Democratic nominee Kamala Harris.
In a significant policy shift, the Australian government has abandoned plans to fine social media platforms up to 5% of their global revenue for failing to curb the spread of online misinformation. Michelle Rowland, Australia's communications minister, said the government was unable to drum up the support needed to pass the legislation. The bill was part of a wide-ranging regulatory crackdown by Australia. The now defunct plan aimed to balance the potential negative impacts of foreign tech platforms, including holding tech companies accountable for spreading misinformation and disinformation. The proposed legislation was met with mixed reactions, with critics arguing that the strict penalties could stifle free speech and innovation. It remains to be seen whether Australia will introduce alternative measures to address the misinformation issue.
Remember the popular mobile game Pokemon Go? The game managed to gain thousands and millions of fans in 2016, with millions of players taking to the streets to capture virtual Pokemon in augmented reality. Well, it turns out the game was just a secret experiment. Players unknowingly helped create a powerful AI by collecting data about the real world. Niantic, the developer of Pokemon Go, recently revealed that it has been using the data gathered from its AR games to create a large geospatial model, and once fully developed, the AI model will allow robots and other devices to navigate and interact with the physical world, even with limited data. Moreover, the company disclosed that it has over 10 million real-world locations located by players to train its AI, and that new players continue to add 1 million new locations every week.